In this video, we're going to learn how to single crochet. This video builds off the previous video, so if you need practice or need help creating chain stitches or understanding how to hold your hook or which yarn to use, go visit the last video. I'll link it in the description down below. So just like the previous video, I'm going to be using the Hue Me, Lion Brand Hue Me, and an 8mm crochet hook. So let's go ahead and get started. To begin working a single crochet, we're going to grab our crochet hook and our working yarn. We're going to create a slip knot and then place that on our hook. We are then going to create our base chain. For single crochet, this can be a multiple of any amount. So it can be even or odd, it's just as long as you want your piece to be. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to chain 10. So now that we have our foundation chain, we're going to go ahead, So now that we have our foundation chain, this is how big or how many stitches should be in each row, 10. And as you practice your stitches, I would recommend counting after each row to ensure that you didn't add or take away any stitches in your desired amount. So there are two ways to start a single crochet row. The first is to chain 1, skip the first 2 stitches, so 1, 2, and then single crochet into the third chain from the hook. By doing this, the first chain 2 acts as the first single crochet. I am not going to do this method, I prefer the second method. The second method is you chain 1, and then from the second chain from your hook, so 1, 2, you work your first single crochet. So this technique, the first chain acts as kind of the turning chain as opposed to an actual stitch. So really it's up to your preference, but I will show you how to work the chain 1 being a turning chain. So let me pull that back out. So I'm going to chain 1, that's my turning chain, and then in the second chain from my hook, and for me I'm looking at the bumps. So in the first video we talked about the anatomy of a chain stitch. You have the V and then the bump. I'm going to be working into the bumps. So I'm going to skip the first bump and then into the second bump. I'm going to insert my hook away from me through that bump. Then I'm going to yarn over, similar to how you create a chain stitch, with the hook up, turn it down, and then we're going to pull it back through that bump that we inserted into. We now have 2 chains, 2 loops on our hook. I'm going to yarn over again and pull through both loops. So that is the full cycle of a single crochet, and I'm going to show you that again multiple times. So we're going to insert our hook away from us into the next chain stitch. For me, I'm going under the bump. If you prefer to work the other way, you'll go under the 2 strands that make the V. But for the purposes of this tutorial, we're working in the bumps. I'm going to yarn over, turn my hook down, and bring it back through the bump. You should now have 2 loops on your crochet hook. You're then going to yarn over again and pull it through. So now we have 2 single crochets. I'm going to work to the end and then I'll show you how to begin the next row. It's the same as this row, but then that'll be how you repeat every single row. Okay, So I just worked my last single crochet. I'm going to count the stitches to ensure I have 10. And to do this, I'm going to count the amount of V's that I have. So 1, 2, 3. So I have 10 stitches, so I worked the amount appropriately. And I'll show you by going through the bumps as opposed to the V's on the chain, foundation chain. Whenever you flip to the bottom, the V's are exposed, which in my opinion looks a little bit nicer. It looks like they're also a stitch. So now I'll show you again how to start a single crochet row, and this will be how you start every single crochet row. So we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to turn our work. So remember how I said that was a turning chain? That's kind of the purpose of that. Now into the same stitch, so not skipping anything, we're going to work our first single crochet. I'm going to go under the 2 V's of the last stitch of the previous row, yarn over, so hook the yarn, pull it back through that stitch. We now have 2 loops on our crochet hook. We're going to yarn over one more time and then pull it through. So that's the first single crochet in the row. We are then going to do that again by working into the stitch under the 2 V's of the previous row, yarning over, pulling through, 2 loops on our hook, we're going to yarn over and pull through. So that's how you work a single crochet. I'm going to work a few more rows to show you how it looks worked up out over a couple rows. So this is essentially what finished single crochet looks like worked in rows. You'll see that there's 2 different looks to each row, and if we get a little closer, I can show you that this is the front and then this is the back of the single crochet stitch. So as you work through, kind of notice it for yourself, and sometimes when you work patterns that are circular, they'll have a right side and a wrong side. But when worked in rows, it'll look the same on both sides. So that is how you work the single crochet stitch. In the next video, we'll learn how to work the half double crochet stitch.